So it's good to see you.
You too. Back in action.
Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff. Been like a couple of months since we've done one of these.
It has been.
Yeah. Have you been?
Good. Yeah, been good. It's been a nice summer. It's been quite chilled. Went away a couple of times.
Yeah.
Not been training as much. Just summer sometimes is a bit quieter. But
yeah. It's been quieter here as well. Well, it's been weirdly like a lot during July, especially August months. Some people go away for holiday and stuff, and university students leave. But then, because it's so busy in the summer in Edinburgh, generally we get a lot of visitors come through. So it kind of balances out. So it's been pretty busy here, even despite people going on holiday and going away for a couple of months. Yeah. So busy. Work as usual over here. Yeah,
it seems like there's been a lot more visitors, or more visitors than there used to be anyway.
Yeah. There's more. I think a lot of visitors because people are starting to know about the gym. We are pretty centrally located, so not too far from the city centre, and I guess reputation's kind of growing. Yeah. And just the summer, the fringe people come over from all sorts of parts over the world to come to Edinburgh, especially the States. Had a lot of American visitors. Everyone's been really friendly, really, really respectful and really cool. So it's been really nice to have different visitors come in. People like to learn from, share kind of techniques and knowledge and stuff. And some people come in just because they want to break a sweat and burn some calories while they're on holiday. Yeah. And often they'll often come in with like, right, I'm going to come in like 4 times this week. You see them on Monday. And then they're like, oh, so what? So where do you do all that whiskey tasting in Scotland and Edinburgh? Then you don't see them again. Yeah. I don't blame them. Like they're on holiday,
claimed by the distilleries.
Yeah, exactly. I don't blame them at all. So it's been a good summer. So it's drawing to an end now, but we've got decent weather for hopefully another few weeks.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see.
But another big thing that happened in the summer was the grading. So
yes,
as you know, we do gradings here. Twice a year, winter and summer. So we had one just a couple of weeks ago, and then you received your blue belt.
Yes.
So congratulations again.
Thank you
on that. So walk me through it. How did that feel to receive it? Obviously, I'm the person who gave you the blue belt, so weird to ask you how it felt, but you can be brutally honest. But so have you got any thoughts around it?
Yeah, it was a very, very special day. Actually, it was one of the. I was really, really looking forward to it. I was very much hoping that I would get my blue belt on that day, and you'd maybe hinted a little bit that.
Well, I just asked if you're going to be here.
Yeah, are you going to be here? Are you gonna
I know.
And then I'd asked you when I got my 4th stripe as well at the last grading if it was a reasonable goal to aim for a blue belt this summer. You said very, very reasonable. Yeah. So, I made sure I got plenty of sessions in, plenty of work in between the 4 stripes and the blue belt, and I did feel ready for it as well. Yeah, I felt I felt good about it. And it was a fantastic day. There's something about grading days.
Busy, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's fantastic. When everyone shows up and everyone's in their gis and everyone's in a good mood and and I don't know, it's a really special thing.
It's a good buzz, isn't it?
Yeah. My partner Ellie was there as well, and
that's great.
She after it she was inspired to take her first class.
Yeah,
in
I know.
jiu-jitsu.
Literally straight away. It's so funny because those of you watching, listening, or whatever, you may not have been to gradings or whatever, but they can be quite different, depending on the club. And some people asking me like, what's going to happen during the grading? Do I need to prepare for anything? Do I need to do a demonstration? I was like, just be prepared to clap a lot, have some fun, laugh and smile a lot, hopefully, and then drink some beers and have some pizza or whatever, so for us it's more of like a social event than anything else. So afterwards I remember Ellie was like, I want to it really made me want to try jiu-jitsu. I was like, cool, like kind of hypothetically, whenever you like. She's like, no, literally Monday. I was like, oh right, you want to start now? Cool, let's do it. Yes, because it's quite like it's quite inspiring, I think, especially because the way we do it here, we don't like to do like your running the gauntlet whippings and shark tanks and stuff. I just think that's a little bit dated. I don't want to go like super into that. A lot of clubs still do it. I prefer for people to give a speech. I actually think it's more challenging. Anyone can just walk a line when people whip their back. Afterwards a lot of people are probably going to regret it, but not everyone's going to be able to give a speech on the spot in front of, like, we had about 55 people here. That's quite challenging. Yes. So I think it's like a good thing to overcome in itself. So sometimes you get people like prepared, one of our guys who got his purple belt, he said a bloody poem. Amazing. First
good.
poem ever. Grading. So brilliant. So but then he's a writer and a teacher, so it comes naturally. And then some people come up and say something really profound. Some people get emotional. I sometimes get emotional giving out belts, and then some people just be like, thanks, and then just walk off. It was just fine. So I think it's cool because you get a little insight into like what people think. Then you talked about like how much it means to you, and like how what the challenge it is to overcome to get the belt. So I think it's a brilliant thing for people to talk in front of everyone. Yeah. Even though it can be quite scary.
Yeah. No, I think so too. I think it's and it's nice just to take a moment. It's just maybe like you definitely don't want to drag it out. But just like 30 seconds just to say thank you, because it's it's a group thing as well. Everyone else was getting there. James got his blue belt, and you got his blue belt, and Evan got his blue belt as well.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Yeah,
that was awesome.
Because he's the first person to come through get a blue belt from like the teens class, from like the kids program. So that's a nice moment, definitely.
That was awesome. Yeah. So yeah, and it's like a group thing. It's like a team thing as well, and we're all making this kind of. Having this achievement together. Yeah. It's fantastic. It's such a nice day.
And it's good, I think, because I like to do like stripes as well on the day. So it's a lot of stuff going on. Yeah. We could easily not do stripes, just do belts but like, it's also about like the environment. We don't have a huge amount of space. You've got 50 people. We don't really have time or space for people to like roll and do crazy techniques and like throw each other around. Like otherwise people just get crushed. So it's for me more of like a rewarding ceremony, I guess. So I always get a little bit worried that people are going to be a bit bored or people are going to be a bit upset for about not getting anything. But everyone's so like supportive of each other. It kind of works, and afterwards people are like, oh no, it's fine. I love clapping for an hour. It was great. So yeah, it is a special thing, especially for people who haven't been to it before. Yeah. Because a lot of people came away and they're like, that was amazing. And I was like, it's just a couple of hours of clapping and looking at stuff happening. And they're like, no, honestly, that was so cool. It was such good fun. Never been to anything like that, and it's just like such a good buzz, and it makes me want to train more to be one of those people that get something eventually. So it's brilliant, and that's the whole point in it. So I'm glad we got some really good feedback.
Yeah. How do you decide, like, how do you think, right, okay, this person gets 2 stripes, this person is ready for the next belt? How do you know?
Every case is different. Obviously we have to have certain, we have a curriculum here, especially white to blue, only white to blue for the time being. We don't have like a blue to purple belt curriculum per se. But so, it's definitely a box ticking exercise as well, because our curriculum rotates in the beginner sessions. But that's not to say it's a hard and fast rule that everyone needs to know each technique on the curriculum inside out, because there's quite a lot. There's a lot of stuff there, which we can get onto later in terms of like methods of teaching. So I always say, like, I want everyone to, let's say, to get to their stripes, because there's a curriculum. The curriculum isn't just like a block list of techniques, it's per stripe. Ideally, what you're aware of per stripe, or what you've practiced per stripe. Doesn't necessarily mean you are a master of this. You're a master of a knee slide pass. You're a master of a Kimura. It doesn't mean you need to like be an expert in any of the things. It means that you need to be aware of what they are, mainly because they're going to be done to you at some point. Yeah. You don't need to have 5 escapes from them anyway. Having practiced them a few times, aware of what they are, can demonstrate it to a competent-ish manner that doesn't need a massive amount of correction, but some correction is fine. So it's not super strict, but so there's that in terms of like knowledge and what you've learned, but also time served on the mat. It is a thing. So just like, as long as someone, we generally, as you'd expect a stripe on a white belt, if you're training consistently, let's say 2 or 3 times a week, maybe 4 times a week. So average between 2 and 3 times a week. Like every 6 months or so for a stripe. Blue belt tends to take up to about 2 years, starting from scratch, that is. It depends if you've got some previous experience. So so part of it is the knowledge and what they can demonstrate they know. Also watching them rolling with everyone, because I pretty much roll with everyone here. So you get a feel of what they're trying to do to you, and if they're trying to apply something deliberately, or if it's just all kind of panic mode. So that's all kind of the criteria. And also just like how long they've been here, how much they've been invested in the club and training and demonstrating improvement, really. So it's kind of vague. There's a lot of stuff going on there. So a lot of it comes with just experience. And I think rolling with everyone, even if it's just a little bit, is really important, which can be tough, but part of the job.
Yeah, because it is, I suppose it is subjective. There isn't like a global jiu-jitsu agreement on what makes a blue belt or whatever.
No, unlike something like judo, so there's like your universal list of moves you need to demonstrate.
Yeah, taekwondo as well. I did a couple of taekwondo gradings and it was the same.
There you go, right? Yeah, I did that for a lot of my judo stuff. So that doesn't, like, I think it's only like a blue or brown belt in judo you need to have done any randori. You can get some belts, I think it might have been red and yellow, at least, without having done any randori. It's just technical demonstration. So there's an application. That's like free sparring.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So you don't necessarily need to have applied that to full resistance to get a belt.
Okay.
Right. So with jiu-jitsu it's a bit different. You kind of need to show that you're trying to do things, but you don't need to show you've tried to done 50 things in order to get stripes or belts, right? Okay. But there is like resistance training quite early on. So yeah, sometimes it's just a case of some people are going to do some moves more than others. So it depends on like body type and age and personality and all sorts of things, all sorts of factors, which might lead to somebody being more kind of a player who wants to be on top and passing guard and using pressure. There are going to be some people who are going to be mostly on the bottom, using their legs, using their mobility and agility to try and do stuff to other people. So that's going to happen like inevitably. Some people are going to favor certain types of rolling than others, especially in the first couple of years, because it's be like survival mode, so you kind of do what comes naturally. So you can't expect everyone to know everything. Yeah. So whether they're aware of everything is great, but whether they use it in rolling and applying that to resistance is another thing entirely. So they don't have to. You don't have to see anyone do like a big judo throw, like a Suyanagi or anything in sparring and go tick. They used it once, that was brilliant, because some people are just never going to be able to do that. So it has to be kind of subjective, it has to be like case by case, really. But obviously that can be quite tricky to monitor and to manage. So having people to help me, like Max and Ronan, who assist me and coach alongside me here, that helps a lot as well. So we have discussions and chat about it. But obviously I get kind of final say, but we're usually on the same page with these things. It's really good.
That is interesting. So Max and Ronan have a bit of input as well.
Because
much better.
Yeah, because also like they teach. Like there are times where I'm not here. There has to be times where I'm not here, otherwise I'll just burn out.
Yeah.
So, as much as I'm a bit of a control freak. So their input is really, really important, because they might be aware of certain things that I'm not aware of. They may see certain things I don't see, and also their feedback. They may be rolling or training with other people at certain times of day where I'm not seeing them or being exposed to them. Especially as the club grows, that's the kind of, I don't necessarily need like a committee every week with like, this is the improvement of every person here, because there's too many people.
Yeah.
But generally the more people who help me with this kind of like collecting of information and knowledge, the better, really, as the club grows, because we've got so many members now.
How many are there?
200 now. 200. So yeah,
that's a lot of people to keep track of.
Yeah, because there's kids as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a whole other thing. Kids, and then stripes of the kids and the gradings and everything that comes thick and fast. The kids burn through these belts. Once every few months they tend to get a belt. And again, like that comes down to the same thing: how often they're here, how much they're improving, if they're even listening, if they even want to be here. All sorts of things. There's a whole other world. So me and Max run the kids, so we talk a lot about that stuff, like which kids are like ready for certain things. So I try and get them into like little groups. So get like a group of kids on 4 stripes and say to them, soon you're going to be ready for another belt. But the difference is, kids, I do ask them to demonstrate. I want them to talk in front of the class. I want them to engage.
Really?
In front. Yeah, because I think it's it's just really important at that age to be able to show what you're doing with like a bit of confidence and deliberately articulate it in front of the other kids, in order to actually like achieve the next belt. And it works well. They don't need to be like amazing and poetic about it, but it does help a lot. Whereas the adults, they're adults. I don't think they need to demonstrate things in front of people. I think like it's really earned progressively throughout the months and the years. So really, by the time you turn up to grading, you've earned that. There's no proving on the day. You know, that should be earned, that should be decided already, and that should be like planned. There shouldn't be a moment where I'm like, here's a belt, just because I forgot you existed. You know, it has to be, it's a concerted effort to make sure everything's planned, and I know exactly, or I know exactly who's going to get what on what day, because you know, it's you know, if you go home feeling like you haven't achieved something, you don't know why, then there's a bit of a problem there. It's like I always say with you guys, like, I'm fine with you guys asking me, how do you think I can get my next belt, and even when do you think it could be? I don't mind that. There's this whole like narrative in jiu-jitsu where it's like, oh, if you ask when I'm going to get my next stripe, I'll add 6 months to it. If you ask when you're going to get a belt, I'll add another year to it. And that's just a bad power dynamic. You know, I don't know why, because in judo people like ask straight away, because it's like, you will know there's a limited amount of time you have to wait, or like a certain amount of time you have to wait between the belts anyway. So I should be able to tell people what that is. It should be around then. If you turn up X amount of times per week and actually make an effort and learn, you should be looking to get a belt perhaps around summer next year, winter next year, whatever. We can work towards it together. I think it should be something that we work towards together, rather than I'm a gatekeeper of it. And it's a secret and a mystery until one day I decide to bestow it upon you. I don't think it's fair. So it has to be like a kind of collaborative effort, because like, I want people to be black belts, they want to be black belts. Why not just try and work together towards it, rather than me holding it back?
That's cool, like a shared goal.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it has to be. Yeah, because I have to give it. So like that alone is too much power in one place. So like, it's a weird dynamic. Like, we do a podcast together, we collaborate on this. It's like an equal effort thing. Whereas I decide when you are at a certain level in jiu-jitsu, and it's like my opinion, and it could be completely wrong. So, you know, it should really be, there should be some form of like collaboration and some form of communication as to what I feel you need to do to improve to get to a certain level, because everyone have a different goal. Everyone will be like, I want to compete and blah, blah, blah. Or I just want to be competent at this. I want to get a little bit more confident. And you can also say like, you know, if I was to get purple belt, I think I'd really want to be like this. I'd want to be like, you know, really confident in this area, this area, and this area. I'm like, cool, that's like your goal. So then let's work towards it together. But obviously, like, I don't have time to like map out a massive thing for every person, but I still think that there just has to be communication, basically, because these are important things to people. So like, do you feel like now you're a blue belt? It's like an identity, right? It's like a thing. Do you feel like you've achieved something big? And if so, do you feel like, cool, now I can kind of relax a bit? Like, psychologically, how has it affected you becoming a blue belt, which is just a piece of material around your waist that one person gave you? You know? Well,
that is the thing. Like, that is something to keep in mind, definitely. It's just, I am exactly the same, or almost exactly the same as I was when I had the white belt on with 4 stripes as a blue belt. Like, I didn't really add that many skills in between now and then.
Overnight,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, nothing changed overnight, but it was, I don't know, I honestly would say it's one of the biggest achievements of my life. Like, I started jiu-jitsu when I was like 17, and I'm 24 now. I wasn't training the whole time there. Like, I didn't train for many years in there, but that was when the journey started.
Yeah.
And I was interested in jiu-jitsu, and I was doing like the odd training session in that time. So it took a really, really long time. It's really difficult. I was at low tide. It was almost 2 years to the day, actually. I came in here, I was a no stripe white belt, and then I got the stripes. Like, I was won that every 6 months or so, and then got the blue belt. I think there's maybe, in terms of like the psychological part of it, it was really nice that you invited me to come along with Ellie for her first class. That was great. And then you asked me to, like, I wasn't training per se at the class, but I was like making sure people didn't bump into each other and stuff. That felt really nice. Like, that was, I really, really enjoyed that. And I could help one of the guys with some of his techniques and stuff. And as a white belt, I've never felt it was appropriate for me to like coach in any way, because you're a white belt, and a white belt represents a complete beginner, and you're in the phase of learning. I mean, to me, a blue belt still is just like an early beginner as well. I'm still a novice. I still have insane amount to learn and a long road ahead. but it does represent at least some kind of step up to a level. And yeah, it's great. As I said, I did feel ready. I know some people get belts and they don't feel ready. I think that's a very stressful thing for some people.
Yeah.
Which is again the responsibility for you. Is that you don't want to hold people off, as you said, and like kind of demoralize them. But then if you do it too soon as well, you see some people that maybe have belts that they shouldn't have, and I think it also ruins jiu-jitsu for them because they have all these kind of expectations on themselves, and other people have expectations of their skills, and that's not fair either. But no, I did feel ready, and I felt great. It was a really nice day.
Yeah, you deserve it. A lot of people quit at blue belt.
Why do you think that is?
I think a lot of people quit at blue and black belt. I guess everyone ends up quitting at black belt. Everyone dies. Yeah, everyone dies. Yeah. So, but blue belt, I think it's because it's a long road to get to. It's a hard slog. It is well earned. It should be anyway. It all depends. Not all blue belts are the same. So it depends. Some academies will be like really strict with following a curriculum. A lot of it will be like self-defense. By blue belt, they might not have learnt loads of offensive techniques. They might just be really good at defense and really good at the fundamentals. That's fine. Whereas ours is a bit of both. Like there's some self-defense in there. There's a lot of fundamentals, and there's even like, going into certain complex guards, but not have to be amazing at them. Because I still want people to be blue belt and then feel comfortable going in. I don't want this like now I'm a blue belt and then there's like a door revealed and there's all these complicated guards now. And you're like, oh, I didn't even know what that was. You never even told me what a reverse Della what is. So you need to like I think some kind of exposure to the more complicated side of things. But I think a lot of people quit because I just think it's a part of you can then kind of relax because you've earned that belt, and it's a big difference to going from like a non-colored belt to a colored belt. Like just physically looks different. And I think once people relax, people quit because it's a hard sport, because if some people think, oh, I've got my blue belt, I can afford to take a month or two off now, which is totally valid. And I actually sometimes encourage people to take a little break after they've got a belt, because it's like you've obviously, when you're 4 stripes and grading's coming up, you're going to turn up probably more than you usually would, because you want to like make sure you're there, and you want to make sure you want to get a belt, right? So afterwards, why not have a little, like, take your foot off the gas for a little bit? But sometimes, with jiu-jitsu, like, consistency is so key. So if you do like start taking a break and you just skip some classes, skip some weeks build up to months build up. So, and it's just a hard thing to ever come back from taking a long break. Also, like, I just think people, life gets in the way, because often by the time you've received your blue belt, you've got 2, maybe 3 years in, and just things get in the way. Work, responsibilities, life, family, because as we grow older, we have more responsibilities, generally speaking. So I think people just find it less time to do this thing, because the curve just keeps going up. And it's one of the ones as well that takes, you tend to sit on blue belt for quite a while. It's quite a long belt. So statistically, more people are going to quit at a belt where it's like long. I guess statistically, most people quit at white belt, really. Mm-hmm. It has to be that way, right? Most people, you're a white belt as soon as you walk through the door. Most people quit after they walk through the door. Like, most people don't get through the first couple of months because they're just testing it out, seeing what it's like and moving on, right? Because it's a steep learning curve. So I guess white belt is probably where people quit most, but they don't consider themselves a white belt if you've just done a few classes. But yeah, apart from that, blue belt, you're going to be there longest. Black belt, you're going to be there longest. So that's probably why statistically people would just drop out or just stop training or take long breaks at those kind of periods, really.
So did you have any periods of time where you took time off?
Not really. Not long periods of time off. No, I was quite invested from quite early on. So as soon as I started training jiu-jitsu, I kind of quite quickly molded my life around it, I guess, to some extent. I still had a job and I was working in an office and stuff for several years while I was still learning and training before I started teaching a lot. But yeah, injuries took me out of the game for a little bit, but probably no longer than... I honestly can't remember the last time I wasn't on the mat. I don't think I've ever been not on the mat for more than a few weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. At some capacity, I'd come back quite quickly and at least like participate in some way, train a little bit, learn some moves, try and work around injuries. But no, I've never had a extended period of time off. Luckily, just luck, like never had did my kind of life or responsibilities or work or family kind of require that much time that I needed to completely stop doing jiu-jitsu for a period. So I've been quite lucky in that respect. So I've had really good consistency, I'd say.
And that, because you spent a bit of time in Southeast Asia and stuff as well. Were you still consistently training?
Yeah, I trained. Like when I moved over there, I trained more. So as soon as I got there, I found a gym that I really liked, and that's where I really picked it up in terms of training, actually. So as white and blue belt, I was living in London, like working in an office and stuff. So it was like, go to class after work and everything. So I was probably like 3 times a week average, sometimes 4 if I had extra time at the weekend. Whereas when I moved to Malaysia, I think because it was like a reset and a lot of my friends I made quickly were from the club. So socially it became a big part of my life as well quite quickly. And I just, it's when you're in a new country and you don't know that many people, you just kind of go and do your hobby more, right? So that's what I did. So I just went training more, as I said, quite a lot. And then after a year or so, I actually lived above the gym, not deliberately, but like a very good coincidence. So that was easy.
Literally in like the same kind of building.
Yeah.
Nice.
So just go downstairs. So people used to laugh. I'd just go downstairs and walk over like this kind of little shopping kind of area in my gi, and people just laugh. So sometimes it's about convenience as well. Where like can you get to training regularly, and also going to training regularly and not like going crazy every time and going hard rolling and stuff. Otherwise it's not going to be sustainable. So I was trying to just keep it sustainable and trying to make sure I turned up a lot, even if I wasn't necessarily like training hard that day. So I kind of picked it up more when I was a purple belt, and then I started teaching. And then obviously when you start teaching and investing more time in a club or in the sport, it just becomes more of like something you want to do more often than just a kind of recreational hobby.
So when did you feel that you said you picked up teaching and that was a purple belt?
Yeah.
What did that look like? What was that period of time?
So for me, it was like quite a typical thing. I think this is interesting because I want to talk about like teaching a lot today in terms of like tips that I've got into like how to teach, what I think are good ways of teaching, methods, and that kind of thing. But also getting into teaching, it's all well and good going, like, this is how I think you should teach. But like, there's no jobs you apply for, very little jobs you apply for in jiu-jitsu. So like, one big question is like, how do I even get into it? And that's a really difficult one because there is no answer to it. There is no career pathway. No career advisor is going to be like, oh, I think you should teach a martial art when you're older. Go and do this. Like, it's something you just like fall into, something you just keep kind of like turning up to class until you get the opportunity. So unfortunately, there is no kind of clear answer to how to get into teaching, but at least all I can say is my experience. So I joined a club when I was out in Malaysia, and then it didn't take too long. Luckily, I was already a purple belt when I got there, and there were only a few purple belts there. So already having a rank or having some sort of like status obviously helped in that situation. So it just didn't take too long until I was I think I was just got friendly with the guy who ran it, Aaron, and we became mates. Like we were all good mates and really close. They're still very close with each other over there. And I just offered like, I'm happy to teach whenever, just drop the hint at any point, and then managed to was asked to help teach kids. And that started when I did live in the same complex as the gym, because I was just like there, so I could go Saturday 10 a.m. just walk down in my gi and help out with the kids classes. So someone called Mag, she was running the kids program and I helped her, and then from that I just kept turning up helping kids and then assisting with some of the beginners classes. Then they asked me to take some of the beginners classes, and then when I came back here, I got my brown belt out there. When I came back here to London to New School BJJ, like immediately I was like with the guys, I've been teaching for a couple of years now. Whenever you've got any spots to teach, I'm happy to, for free, just jump in and teach whenever you need cover or anything. So it kind of grew from there. So I just started covering people if they needed me, assisting classes, and then I started teaching beginners classes out there and in London. So it's just all about opportunity, really. And I think like a good coach, like we've had conversations before about like you having aspirations to teach, and me acknowledging that and trying to encourage it and try to like communicate about it. So I think if there are opportunities to teach, it's up to the instructor or the gym owner to discuss these things with people who have kind of said, one day I'd like to teach, because it kind of goes both ways. Again, it shouldn't be something that I just hold back and go, okay, one day you, because you're you're like really fun and we hang out outside of class, therefore you're going to be teaching next to me. Like, it needs to be some like people who are appropriate for that, who you kind of train up to teach, who have the same kind of mindset, and it's like who have the same kind of want to put out there in the club. Yeah. So yeah, it's about opportunity, but also just saying that one day I'd like to teach. Are there do you think there will be any opportunities here? And also having the kind of conviction to say no. No, there aren't going to be. This is a small club. There's only me teaching. There's only 10 people on the mat. Because if someone wants to teach, they might have to look elsewhere eventually. That's the way the world works, right? So it's sometimes trying to find a spot within the club you belong to. If there isn't going to be a spot and there's a long queue of people ahead of you, maybe looking elsewhere if you really want to teach.